something that you brought up, I think it was the other day. You messaged me, and talk about that. Talk about your shit. Talk your shit, fam.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, like, I have, a bunch of different playlists on my iTunes, and then I just put it on all my liked ones, and a bunch of like old stuff came up because I plugged the old hard drive in, went on the old rabbit hole. So a bunch of like Talib Kweli and Black Star came on, right? And
Hey.
I don't know. I also watched Talib Kweli on his Instagram live, and he's DJing because he's a DJ also. Who's spinning a lot of jazz stuff, but then M1 from Dead Prez popped on, and they started playing all those sort of songs. So like I've just been, over the last little week or so before I mentioned it to you, on shuffle, a bunch of songs come on, like from Black Star, Dead Prez, and all those kind of artists. And I was just thinking, like, the amount of information that I've learnt from listening to hip hop about the black culture and the black struggle, like as early as like Public Enemy stuff, and learning about, the way they set the hoods up and the redlining and just, how they're always starting from a shit start and that kind of stuff. And I just was sitting back going, damn, I really kind of got coached along, like, hey man, just so you know, this is what the fuck's happening, and we come from this. And it's just like, if I didn't listen to all this sort of conscious hip hop, I wouldn't know half of the things. So all the things that I'm learning recently and researching and coming across, it's all just coming back into full circle and making a little more sense to me.
Nice.
And also now that I'm fucking older, because we were listening to Dead Prez when we were like, teenagers. So like, fast forward almost 20 years, like it really hits different. And it's, a lot of shit is super relevant still, which is super sad, but super educational, like the Dead Prez stuff specifically. And even not even into the rap world. We were talking about all the neo soul sort of artists like Badu, Jill Scott, Outkast, and that sort of stuff. Just that's it really just was like, wow, I didn't realize that I knew so much from listening to music. So
right.
That was just a lot of MCs that are educators at the same time, KRS-One, like those kind of guys, right?
Okay. So then I guess we should lay out just for people who haven't been listening to a lot of what would be arguably called like conscious hip hop, like some artists that they could check out to learn about stuff. Because you're right, I think all of this stuff isn't foreign to us, even as white kids growing up in suburban Melbourne, Australia, because we learned it from the music. The music taught us a lot. So we come into this with an understanding of everything else, which is kind of why I'm a little surprised about what Howdy's saying, because he's an MC. So I would imagine that if you're listening to hip hop, you would be able to have some sort of an understanding of this type of shit. So some of the ones that we were talking about for you and I, so you mentioned like Black Star, Dead Prez, Let's Get Free is one of my top 5 albums of all time.
One of the best.
Listened to it on Saturday. After we had this convo, I put it on, and Tiff hadn't heard it. So we were vibing on Saturday night, and
nice.
I was like, she's like, Jesus Christ, this is
sick.
Nah, she knew him. She knew like hip hop, she knew like the single.
Oh, okay.
But that was like
Dave Chappelle, probably, right? Because that was the
that's a good point. She hated Dave Chappelle until we saw him. So Tiff didn't like a lot of the things that I liked until they are older age. She just thought he was dumb and whack. But like now she gets it because Dave was grown up. It was like a mature joke, but that's why we loved it. She knew it just because probably from like going out, it's just around, like people were playing it. It came out in 2000, so it was a long time ago.
True.
She was also quite young.
Sounds like a long time ago.
Yeah, it kind of was. So basically, Dead Prez was the main thing. I wasn't a huge Public Enemy guy, but I got Music in Our Message was my first one I bought from Public Enemy back like 95, 96, something like that.
Nice.
All the common stuff is like hella woke.
True. Yeah, Common got some game.
Tiff saying she was a dance hall girl and R&B, and that's completely fair. It's a different vibe. Also, true. Tiff, you would have been like 12 when that shit came out, so you know.
I'll just want to dance.
Right? That's it. Exactly. It's different vibes.
That's all you want to do.
That's it. We want to think because we're real hip hop.
Hip-hop.
Common stuff. All common stuff. Has always been super woke. He went a little Hotep with borderline out on like Water for Chocolate and then into Electric Circus when he was with the Badu phase.
Yes.
Just like Grown Man Dave. Exactly. Grown Man Dave is actually more... Before it was just funny dumb shit. Now it's funny political observational shit. So you got to respect the difference. I actually understand why, because she also wasn't a huge fan of Jay back in the day, but she loves the newer Jay with the grown stuff. She likes Cole
Right.
because Cole is like
444 a little more.
loves 444. Yeah, but now she can
of course.
appreciate the old shit because I'm like, all right, cool. Now you fuck with it because before I'd play it, and she'd be like, oh, I don't really want to hear it. And then 444, she's like, oh yeah, I fuck with this. And now I'm like, cool. Let me play you some gems from the catalog. She's like, okay, I get it now. So, you know, it's all completely different. So. Common stuff was really big. You said Erykah Badu. She was one of the neo soul that talked about that stuff. Probably Jill didn't really talk about it. I guess Badu was kind of on this type of stuff.
Is Angie Stone just more like layback vibe, smoking sort of music? I can't remember what she actually talks about.
A bit of a mix. She might have touched on
more
social issues.
Relationship.
It's kind of like good fucking music, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Smoke Like Green Grass Vapors was that smoking joint back in the day. We used to rock to that.
Other MCs I was thinking of, like Killer Mike, like,
yep.
I mean, he's lately been more vocal, just like as a public figure.
Particularly with Run the Jewels, he had a second.
He has some family medium to high up in the Atlanta Police Department, and he's very well fucking versed on a lot of police rules and regulations and legislations and stuff. So, did you watch that interview where he stood up? He's like, I don't want to be here. This is fucked up, but
Yes, I did see that, and a lot of people were furious about it. Like, they hated it.
Furious? Why?
Hated it. A lot of black folks hated it because I guess he was standing up for the police, and he was doing exactly what I was talking about earlier, saying, like, why are you rioting? Don't riot. It's not going to blah, 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 because he's probably concerned that his family could be hurt by it. He's not a police sympathizer as such, because he is a woke dude, and I do like Killer Mike. But I can understand why people were vexed, because he was sort of like pushing that narrative. Like, and you got to understand, people are angry. It's not about the stuff. They're not going to fuck up the whole city. But like, everything happened for a reason. And we've said there's reasons why these looters started. Yeah, I'm sure some of the actual protesters were fucking shit up, but they probably didn't have the best intentions anyway. Other people were sort of like, imagine if you're protesting, you're there, you got your mask on, you got your sign, everything, and then like you see all these white kids breaking into a store, and you might just be like, oh fuck, like.
Fuck yeah!
Everyone's running in. I could just go grab something real quick, like, and then it becomes, you could get goaded into it, but they didn't start it. So you have to understand it's a deep one. So that's why people were mad at him. I understand what he said, and it was a good message, but I think that's why people were pretty mad at him for that.
Word.
But Run the Jewels, because he dropped that album this week, which we'll get to in a sec. Like, he's had a nice little career, a revamp from that. Rochelle's saying Lauryn Hill Unplugged. That's a good one, actually.
Oh yeah, that's a fire performance.
Yeah, super, super cool. I think that one definitely touched on a lot of stuff, more so than her. She actually did on Miseducation too, but more so on this, which was very cool. Something you mentioned here, old Kanye. The old Kanye definitely was woke.
Yeah, true.
I would say he kind of lost it as a graduation, maybe.
Yeah, he mostly just touched on it in a couple of bars. Like, he didn't go on like a whole full song.
What about Never Let Me Down? Came from folks who want us to eat. At the tender age of 6, you was arrested for the city. Yeah,
that in my blood. Yeah, well,
exactly. So that whole song is about that, and I thought that was pretty cool. So he has his moments. But that old Kanye stuff. So there's a bunch of really good stuff. There's even old '90s stuff. Poor Righteous Teachers. They had some pretty hectic shit. There's a whole, but basically anything associated, I think. Oh, the early Ice Cube, Kill It Will, America's Most Wanted, Predator, Lethal Injection.
To mention Ice Cube, yeah.
Old Cube stuff was like, NWA with OG, like Fuck the Police and stuff back in the day. So they'd been talking about it. So anything, Cube's always been on that tip.
Should have mentioned NWA. Missed that one, eh?
Yeah, I guess that's how we all got into it back then.
That was definitely more of a militant approach.
It was. But it worked, right? Yeah. It got people to pay attention. They got arrested on stage. They had to rush off stage because they had the cops were there saying don't perform the song, and they're like, fuck it. And they're like what do you call them? Arenas. And then the cops come and arrest them. So they were running, trying to be like, yeah, fuck it. Like, this gangster, man. It's so sick. They're hilarious. So there's a bunch of really good music, but
back in the day.
Right, hella. I would highly recommend anyone who, particularly people like Howdy, you might not understand it so much. Go and listen to this stuff. Listen to what they're saying. People have been saying this stuff for decades. And this is not even including protest music of the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, probably like a lot of the soul stuff, Curtis Mayfield and Marvin Gaye, and like, I'm like, confront, like I know all that stuff. Probably Otis Redding talked about it. Like, dudes were talking about this shit on record for decades and decades. There's, poetry, like books, like James Baldwin stuff, Malcolm Gladwell.
True.
Even what's the wonderful lady who passed? I'm having a blank. Very famous, Maya Angelou. Her poetry.
Oh, poetry.
Stuff like that. There's just so much art that explains the struggle that I feel like people need to take that upon themselves and go and check that shit out. Go listen to it. Go soak it up. You just
Nina Simone,
you just,
like there's so many.
Nina Simone, oh my
Jazz,
gosh.
Soul. Yeah, Nina's
100%. Like all her shit was like totally on that.
Yeah, that's a good point,
like
dude.
Strange
Like,
Fruit
that's
and
a very
stuff.
good point. Not even hip hop stuff, like old.
It's way beyond hip hop right now. But I feel like just it's like everyone's duty to their fellow human beings is to understand the struggles of others. And I think it's just really, really important. Eric, my man, is saying, I think people hear reoccurring themes and call it lazy writing instead of what it is, shared experiences. Okay, interesting. So I guess you mean like people saying the same... I guess because I know these the comments are somewhat delayed because of the way that the live works. So I'm not sure exactly which thing you're referring to, Eric, here. But maybe you're saying because a bunch of people are talking about the same type of thing. How do you say he's listening? That's it, man. Go check the shit out. So I think that's a pretty exhaustive list at least now. Even like Slum Village I have down here, Outkast we put down. They talked about that stuff. There's a lot of Southern music really talked about it. Probably a bunch. Even Ghetto Boys, Scarface, been talking about this stuff. Scarface is my top 5. Like the Roots talked about it a lot. Things Fall Apart, like that whole album. Like they really touched on this stuff. Like Black Thought also top 5. There's a lot of people that are talking about this type of stuff that you can soak up their game.